right, so what I have is an AutoCAD drawing with some 3D models in it. And you can see this model right here is the flange bearing that you guys drew when we did a section view of this. And this was done in Chapter 8. And so this is what your front view or your top view, depending on how you're looking at that. And then this is the section view. And even if you had it turned around the other way, everything will still work the same. But I want to show you a few things that we'll do differently because we're working in 3D now. And one of the first ones is right up here at the top of your screen. Right now what you have probably is either your initials and the words 1405 because we created a custom workspace. If you don't have that, what you probably have is drafting and annotation up there. And what that is that's your normal 2D drafting tools. So this is what you would see if you just had drafting and annotation up. And if you had your customized workspace, I think what you would see are these toolbars over here on the left-hand side. So if you've had those open, then you have the custom workspace probably. So when we start to work in 3D, we want to change this workspace. So we're going to come up here and pick on this down arrow. And we have some options here with 3D in them. And we want to choose 3D modeling. And when we do that, our ribbon changes to a whole new set of tools. And these are not your normal tools, although you do have the draw panel right here and you have the modify panel right up here. You have a bunch of 3D tools. But the other thing I want to point out to you is that when you switch to 3D modeling, you lose your menu bar. So what you'll want to do is come up here and pick on this down arrow right next to this and come down and select Show Menu Bar. And then you'll get these tools back right here. And so if you want to go to Tools at that point, and then move down to Toolbars and go over to AutoCAD and pick Draw, for example, and open your Draw toolbar, you're welcome to do all that. And then you could open Modify and Dimension or whatever your normal toolbars are. You could even come up here at that point and pick Save Current As, and you might call it DWS 1405. Now DWS are my initials. You would use your initials. 1405 3D, for example, and then pick Save, and then you would have a customized 3D workspace. Okay, so I'm going to pick right here, and I'm going to show you what we have been seeing all semester is when you draw in 2 dimensions, you have your UCS icon right down here in the lower left, and it tells you which direction X is, and it tells you which direction Y is. But what we couldn't see is that coming straight out of this corner right here at us is a line or a vector coming at us, and that actually represents dimensions along the Z-axis. And the Z-axis is what gives us 3D. And in order to be able to see the 3D part of things so that we can see the Z-axis, we have to come up here and change our point of view. And so you see where it says View right up here, you can pick on this down arrow and you can choose Southeast Isometric. Now it just says SE Isometric, and what that means is Southeast Isometric. All right, and the way to think about Southeast Isometric is this. Imagine that you were standing right here at your UCS and you took a step back to the south. If Y was north and this direction right here, negative Y. So negative Y would be to the south. Imagine you're standing right there and you take a step back to the south and then you take a step to the east. So you're over here. So you've gone southeast and then you're looking in the direction of your 2D drawing. This is sort of the point of view that you would have. So this is called Southeast Isometric right here, or Southeast ISO or whatever that sometimes it gets abbreviated. You can pick on your down arrow. You could go to a Southwest ISO if you wanted to. And what Southwest ISO would indicate is that you were standing here you took a step back toward the south, then you took a step toward the west, and then you look back at your model. And so this would be what a southwest isometric view would look like. Now, normally what we're in, we can go up here and pick on this, is we are in what's called a top view. And let me see if I can get it to go to top. There we go. So all semester long, let's see what this is going to do here. Come on. Now my computer, there we go. My computer was running a little slow. All semester long, what we've been in is called just a top view. And in the top view, you're just looking normal to the XY plane. All right. Now, I want to relate these views that you have over here. So where I have a top view to this guy over here on the upper right, this is called the view cube. And I don't know if you've noticed, but all semester long, it has said top. All right. And so now let me show you what happens when you go over here and you pick on this and you choose Southeast Isometric or SE Isometric. Watch what happens to the view cube. You see how the view cube turned? The orientation of the view cube for Southeast Isometric is, you see the corner right there that's kind of lit up? If you pick on that corner, it will put you in Southeast Isometric. So that's where we are. If I picked on this corner over here at the top on the opposite corner, that would give me the Southwest Isometric. So the view cube is just a kind of a quicker way to move around in 3D. And programs like Inventor, which is a mechanical CAD program, it's specialized for mechanical CAD. It has the view cube because it's also an Autodesk product. So you'll probably get more used to working with the view cube, because once you get into Inventor, you don't have these tools right here that say Southwest Isometric and everything like you do in AutoCAD. At least I'm not aware if they're in there, because at that point you'll just be looking at your models using the view cube over here. All right. So what we want to do is set our drawing up for Southeast Isometric. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on, let's see if I can find this guy here. Well, I thought I had another one open. Maybe I don't. Hinge bearing. Oh, here it is. It's this guy right here. Okay, so the first drawing that you're going to do today, or the first 3D model you're going to make, you're going to go to Blackboard and you're going to click on Chapter 10, and then you're going to see a folder that says Project 10.1. And Project 10.1, let me tell you where that's located at. It begins on page 397. And so if you look on 397, you're going to see the sketch of the tool slide, and but you're not going to have to redraw the tool slide. What's going to happen is you're going to go and open up a prototype drawing called Tool Slide 3D Exercise. And it's going to look like this right here. It's going to have your front view, your top view, and your right side view already drawn for you with no hidden lines in it. So we could have taken your drawing and just copied it and removed all the hidden lines, but we wanted to make sure that you had a good copy of, a good clean copy of the front, top, and the side view of this, because if you were making a 3D model of this, this is what you would draw first. You would want to have your 2D drawings of it. This is why the 2D portion of the class is so important to you, because in order to make a 3D model, you have to be able to draw all of that geometry right there exactly right. Okay? So you have to know a lot about 2D in order to make a 3D model. So I'm going to show you though how I would go about turning this into a 3D model just real quick. I would use the copy command, and remember you do have your modify tools right up here, and so you can pick on copy. When it says select objects, I would pick all of that, and I would pick this guy right here, and then I would enter, and I would pick a point, and I would just drag a copy of that over here to the side like that, and then press escape. So I really only need one copy of that. I would repeat the command, and this time what I would get is this base piece right here, and then enter and pick a base point and just move it someplace. Let's just put it like right up there, for example. And now that I have those profile views like that, I'm going to switch over to my southeast isometric. So I'm going to come back up here and pick on right up here where at this point it's saying unsaved view. I'm going to pick SE isometric. So I'm going to pick right there, and it puts me into the southeast isometric, and now I can see my Z axis. And what I'm going to do is use a command that's actually what's called an extrude command, and I'm going to extrude these shapes up. So I'm going to go on the positive Z axis. I'm going to extrude them as 3D geometry. And so when you look over here at these tools up here, you have the extrude command, but I'm going to show you a better command. It's called press pull. So what I recommend, instead of using extrude, occasionally you will use extrude. I would recommend picking on push pull, and then just coming over here and picking inside that object right there, and then just move your cursor straight up. Now the question is, AutoCAD wants to know how tall are you going to extrude that on the Z axis, and you can only extrude on the Z axis, and that's the direction we're going on. So this is where we want to look back at page 397 and look at the sketch of our model. And what you see is that that particular shape right there is 2.250 tall. If you can see that dimension on there. So I'm going to type 2.250 and press enter. And there it is. There's my first extrusion. Now, I can go back to the press pull command. Get my mouse to work here. Pick on press pull. Computer's trying to run a little slow today. Hopefully it'll catch up. Pick inside that shape right there. And then I want to move straight up like that. And then I want to look at my sketch. So how far do we want to extrude that? So if you find that shape, and then you look at how wide it is, it says it's 3. So I'm going to type 3 and press enter. And then press escape. So I've extruded my two basic shapes for this 3D model. All right. The next thing I want to do is rotate these models 90 degrees so that, like, this is the base of the model, this side right here. I need it to be sitting on the XY plane. And so if you look up here, let me find these guys. Right here, this is called 3D rotate. So you don't want to use 2D rotate, you're going to use 3D rotate on this. So I'm going to pick 3D rotate, and it's going to ask me to select the object. So I'm going to pick on that piece right there. So I just selected this piece, and then I'm going to press enter. And what you'll see is it gives me these ellipses, and it kind of looks like the nuclear energy symbol. And it's saying specify a base point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick at this corner. That corner is actually sitting on the XY plane. I'm going to pick right there. All right. And what's going to happen is this part is going to rotate around that point. The next thing I want to do is choose the direction for the rotation. And the direction of this rotation is going to rotate around this ellipse right here that's lighting up. And if you were imagining that you were spinning around that ellipse, you're actually rotating around the X plane right here. If you were spinning around the X plane, that's what we want. So we're going to pick that, and then AutoCAD says specify the angle. Well, AutoCAD rotates counterclockwise. If you type in 90, it's going to go counterclockwise, and that's the direction I want this to rotate. So I would just type 90 and press enter, and there I've rotated that guy. Now you can see in the background here that it left behind that shape that was extruded. Okay, so you still have that 2D shape in the background back there. So I'm going to do that faster this time, just so you can watch how I do it. So I'm going to do an undo. See if I can get that back to where it was going in the wrong direction, where it was pointing up, by picking a few undos. There it is. All right. So when you're, oh, I'm going to do a redo here. Oh my goodness. It went back too far and it's not letting me redo for some reason. Well, that's no good. Well, shoot. I guess I'm going to have to do a press pull on that guy again. I apologize for this. When you do the press pull, you've got to make sure you get inside your object and just pick like that, type 3 and enter. And then get inside this guy and move up and type 2.25 and press enter. All right, so back to the 3D rotation on this. Here's your 3D rotate. You pick your object and press enter. It asks you for a base point. You're going to pick a point on the XY plane, and then then it asks you pick the rotation axis. You're going to rotate around the X axis, and so it gives you that ellipse right there. And then type 90 and press enter. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to repeat that command. So I just press enter. I'm going to pick right here, and then press enter. And I get the atomic energy symbol again, and I'm going to pick right down here on the XY plane. And I'm going to pick on the X-axis. I'm going to pick right there, type 90, and press enter. Okay, now look at your model. And you want to say, is this guy facing in the right direction if I put it on top of this right here? And if you look at the sketch on page 397, you realize that this object here needs to be rotated 90 degrees toward me. So it's actually going to be rotating around the Z-axis. It needs to spin around the Z-axis. So we're going to use the 3D rotate again and pick our object. So this is going to be the second time we've rotated this guy. We pick that, we press enter. We get the atomic energy symbol, and we're going to pick at that corner. And this time we're going to pick on that blue ellipse right there, because that is the ellipse that would rotate around the Z-axis. So we pick that. We want it to rotate counterclockwise if we type 90. So we just type 90 and press enter. And we've spun it around. And so now it's sitting in the right orientation relative to the base. So what we want to do now is use the move command. We're going to pick that guy and press enter. And when it says specify the base point, we're going to snap to the midpoint right at the front edge right there of our model. So we're going to pick right there at the midpoint. And we're going to move right up here. And where we want to move this guy to, we want to snap to the top midpoint right there. Pick right there. And so we have set this right on top of that. Okay. Now, the thing is, if I pick on one, I can pick the bottom one, and then I can pick on this one. But you can see they are two separate objects. And I want to join these two guys together into one 3D model. And the command we use is not called join. It's actually called union. And right up here, you see these two blue boxes that overlap each other. This is called solid union. So you pick union. And it says select objects. You can pick that object, and then you can pick this object. And at that point, you don't need any more objects, so you press enter. Now look, when I pick on that, the entire thing selects. So these two have been unioned together. All right, now I need two holes cut through this, and at that point, my 3D model is finished. And here's where I can get those holes. I can go back to my top view right over here. And I can use press pull, and I can pick, and I can hold down shift. I should be able to hold down shift and pick again. Get this guy. Let's see if that worked. There we go. It didn't work. Let's just do a press pull on this guy and just bring that up. The thing about this one is I need it to come up all the way through that base, and the base is 0.88 thick. So I'm just going to come up here at some random number that's more than 88 and just pick like that right here. Then I'm going to go to this one and pick, and I'm going to drag it up and pick. So I've got these two solid cylinders sticking straight up. And What I'm going to do next is move these two cylinders so that they are placed inside this model right here. So I'm going to use the regular old move command. You pick on move, it says select objects, pick that cylinder, and then press enter. And when it asks me for a base point, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to pick right at that corner, right there, pick there. And when it asks me for my second point of displacement, I'm going to pick right here at this front corner, like that. So what I've done is I've placed these two solid cylinders right inside of my 3D model. And so now I want a hole where in the place of each of those cylinders. So the command I'm going to use is right here. It's called the subtract command. So you pick on subtract, and AutoCAD says select the objects. Well, the first thing you select are the objects that you're subtracting from. So that would be my big piece right here. You pick that, and then you need to press enter. Then it says select the objects to subtract, and I'm going to pick on this cylinder, I'm going to pick on this cylinder, and I'm going to press enter. And what AutoCAD does is it subtracts the mass of those two cylinders from my 3D model right here. So that's how you drill holes in things. You actually subtract a model shape from your part to leave a hole behind. Okay. So if we go look at the top view, let's go back over here and look at top view. We should be looking, when we look straight down on our model, right through those holes. So I'm going to go back over here. I want to show you something about your view cube. You have a view here that looks like a house. It's right over here to the side. If you pick on that, it will take you to what AutoCAD calls the home view. Now you can see that the home view is actually a southwest isometric, and I don't know why they made that home. I would have made southeast isometric home. So I'm going to go over here and pick on that top right corner. See where my mouse is right there on the view cube? I'm going to pick right there. Hang on, didn't quite get it. Let me go back do a couple of undos here, see if I can get to go back. Let me go back to right there and pick. Okay, so there is southeast isometric. All right. Now I'm going to go to paper space. Let's look at this guy. So I'm going to click inside here and pan around, and you can see there is my 3D model right there. So at that point, I really don't need any of this other 2D geometry, so I could delete all of it. But actually what I think is better to do is just window all your 2D geometry. You know, not your 3D geometry, but just grab all that 2D geometry and just move it away from your part, from your object. So just use your move command and pick and move that way out into space. And then let's move this guy over a little bit. Let's grab him and just move it over like that. And then we can move all this stuff again and just get it away from our 3D model. Now I'm going to go back to my 3D view over here and double click inside there, so you can see I'm not seeing any 2D lines anymore. I just see my 3D model. All right. Now what we want to do is scale this guy into our 3D model window. And the way you do that is you double click out here in the gray, or you pick on model down here, because you have to get back into paper space. So we're back into paper space, and remember that in paper space you have a viewport. You're actually looking through a viewport, and so there's a rectangle around your object out here in space. The mouse is moving funny again. Okay, so what you want to do is pick on that rectangle. And then you want to look right down here on your status bar, and you want to pick on the down arrow, and you need to choose a scale. So I'm going to try half scale, 1 to 2. All right. So if I want my model to be 1 to 2, that's what it would look like. If I pick on this again and I say, oh, I want to see it at 1 to 1. So this could fit at 1 to 1. All right. And so that shows you how we get our scaling done. We scale the viewport. Now, once you have it the way you like it, you need to come down here onto your status bar, and you see the, let me move this out of the way. I don't know if that's in y'all's way or not. You want to pick on, oh, come on. There's a lock right here. You see that lock? You're going to pick on that lock right there. And what that does is it locks the viewport so that if you're scrolling in or out, you won't change the scale. It will stay at 1:1 or 1/2 or whatever you want that to be. So that's how you make 3D models. You take your 2D geometry and you copy it so that you have extra copies of it. In case, the reason I copy it is in case I don't want to use this up and then not have a copy of it somewhere else. Once you have the copy, you've got to come up here and make sure that you've got your workspace set to 3D modeling, and then use press pull, and then just pick inside there. Now you can see if I just pick on a line, all it does is extrude the line. So when I pick press pull, I have to pick inside in order to get it to, let's do that again. Oh man, I think I need to restart my cursor, or my computer, sorry, because my cursor is acting funny. All right, so I think you get the point. And the thing is, all of this is going to be covered in the videos. You're going to be walked through using press pull again and all of that. Now, before we go on, and I cut you loose today, I wanted to show you a couple of commands that I haven't shown you. And so a minute ago, I was saying that if you want to make something that looks like the flange bearing, so it looks like this guy right here, you're going to have to create a shape that looks like a counter bore and a shape that looks like a counter sunk hole, and you're going to have to subtract those from your model. Remember, like I showed you a minute ago. So this is what your model will look like when you extrude everything, but you need to make these shapes. And so here's actually how we're going to make those shapes. My goodness, my computer's running so slow. Okay, so let me show you. When you come over to your two-dimensional view, if you were to select all these lines right here, including these slanted lines that we have in here, the angled lines that we have, and we come up here and we pick this, and we pick this, and we pick this bottom edge. If we were to copy those, so let's go to our copy command here and pick and just move those over here to the side like that. And then if we went in and we trimmed this line out here, and we trim, so we just keep this line across the bottom, pretty soon the shape that we would have would look like this right here. Okay, so what we would do at that point is we would draw a line from, come on, oh, it's moving slow. We want to draw a line from the midpoint here to the midpoint down here, like that. And then we would come in with our trim command, and we're going to trim everything to the side of this. So let me show you what that would look like when it's done. It would look like this guy right here, and there you would remove this line that's in here. Now, the reason you want to do that is we need to get this shape right here, and we're going to actually use a command called Revolve, and I'll show you how this works. So once you've trimmed the shape of your countersunk hole, so all of that came from the two-dimensional geometry that you already had, what you do is you take this and you're going to use a command called region, and region is on the draw toolbar. If I can just get it to work, it's right here. See where it says region? You pick on region, and it says select objects. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to pick everything, and then press enter. And when it's regioned, it turns white like that because it fills the inside of that region. And then you're ready to do what's called a revolve command. And the revolve command is actually behind extrude. So if you pick on the down arrow right here, and you pick revolve, and AutoCAD says select the object to revolve, you pick the region, and then you enter. And then it says specify the axis. So what it wants to know is if you're going to revolve this, what axis are you going to revolve around? And it's going to be this line right here. And so what you're going to do is pick at the end point of the line there, and pick at the end point of the line here, the opposite end. And then you can see as I move my mouse around, if I type 360, if I want that shape to be revolved a full 360 and I press enter, there's my shape. Okay. And then what I would do is I would rotate that shape and so that it was standing straight up, and then I would move it so that it is copied right here, and then I would subtract that guy out. So that's what subtracts that hole that you see right there. So, you know, you would use your 3D rotate, and you would pick on your object. Come on. Just running slow, and press enter. All right, come on. There it is. This thing is running so slow, I apologize. So I'm going to pick on that, press enter. And what I would do for my rotation is I would pick right at the center point of that circle, or this right there. It would snap right there. And we're going to choose this ellipse right there and type 90, so I rotated that shape 90 degrees. And then I would move that shape. So I would pick it and press enter. And when it says specify base point, I would go to the kind of the edge of that. I would come over here and pick at the center point at the very top. And I want to move it over here, and I would go to the edge of this because I want to move it to the center right there at the very top of that. So I've actually copied that shape into my part right here. And so the next thing that I would do is do a subtract. So I would use solid subtract, and I would pick on the edge of my object and press enter. And then it asked me the thing to subtract, and then I would press enter. Okay, yeah, I can see my computer's acting very funny today. Let's try that solid subtract again. So you pick the object and press enter. And then I'm going to pick that guy right there, the thing I just copied in there, to subtract and press enter. And you can see what it does. That's how I cut that hole in there. And I'm going to do the same thing with these counterbore shapes. I'll copy the counterbore, I'll cut it in half and trim it, make it look like that. I'll make a region of it, and then I'm going to use the revolve command and revolve it 360 degrees. Then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so it's pointing straight up. And then I'm going to copy one right there at the center of this arc and at the center of this arc right there. And I'm going to subtract both of these shapes out of my larger part. And when I do that, this is what I'm going to have left behind. Now, there's one thing I wanted to caution you about before I show you Blackboard on this. If you have this shape here, let me do some undos and take it back a little bit. If you remember before I regioned that shape, it's still going to be a few more undos. Okay, at this point right here, that shape has not been regioned. And remember, to do the region, you pick on your draw command, and you can pick that guy right there, and then you window everything, and that will turn it into a region, and then it turns white. So this is a region over here. But if you skip that step and you go straight to revolve, and remember, revolve is behind extrude, so you pick on it, you pick on the down arrow, go find revolve, and it says select object. So let's say that I window all that stuff right there, but I haven't regioned it first. Now I press enter. It says select your axis endpoint. So I would pick here, and I would pick here, and then it asks me for what angle do I want to fill. But you see what's going on here? What I'm creating is a hollow model. I'm not creating a solid model because I didn't turn that into a region. So even if I type 360 and press enter, it creates a hollow 3D shape. And that hollow 3D shape, if I put it on this part and I try to subtract it, because it's hollow, it's not going to make that cutout. And here's how you know that you have a hollow shape. When you move your mouse onto it, you see those lines that you get? You don't get those lines if that's a solid model. So when you see those, that tells you you've got a problem. Like, see, when I move on to this guy, this is solid. See, I'm not getting that grid like when I move on to this. So before you do the revolve, you have got to make a region of that shape that I showed you guys. Okay? Or else you're going to have a hollow shape. I'm trying to undo back to right there. So remember to region this first, then you're going to actually revolve the region, and that's what will give you a solid countersunk hole shape that you can subtract. So in fact, there's what it looks like right there. And you place it right here and subtract it. All right, so let's go to our 3D view and see what we have over here. So here's what our 3D view looks like. And again, you may have to double click inside here and pan around and kind of get your part centered in there. And then you'll want to double click out here in the gray area and get back into paper space. Pick the viewport, which is right there, and then look right down here and look at your scale. So right now I have this set to 1:1. So if 1:1 were too big and it wouldn't fit, I could try 2/3. So that would be 2/3 scale. Or I could pick on this down arrow again. I could try, 1/2, which is even going to be smaller, like that. So, and when I get it to the scale that I like, what I want to do is pick on that and then pick on the lock right there and lock that scale in. Okay, so that is an overview of 3D modeling in AutoCAD. And so we're going to have 4 projects to work on. So I'm going to pick on Blackboard. Go right here. Okay, so let me go to Blackboard and pick on Chapter 10. All right, so when you pick on Chapter 10, it says, watch this video first, and we have a bunch of 3D videos that talk about just about everything that I've talked about today. Like there's union, subtract, there's press pull, there's extrude, there's even some stuff on visual styles and workspaces, an introduction to the 3D workspace. It'll show you how to set up your workspace. Then what you're going to do is you're going to create the 3D models for 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4. So 10.1 starts on page 397, and 10.2 starts on 402. 10.3 starts on 404, and 10.4 starts on page 406. And so that, like I said, is actually the flange bearing that you've already drawn. But we're going to open up a prototype, and we're going to turn that into a 3D model. All right. So when you come down here to assignment number 1, and you pick on the 3D model of the tool slide, it tells you to read about that, and it gives you those pages to turn to on page 397 in the text. And then it says, open the prototype drawing. It's this prototype right here, Tool Slide 3D Exercise. You're going to open that and then do a save as and save it to your home folder. You can continue to call it Tool Slide 3D Exercise if you want. And then we have a video on modeling the 3D tool slide. And it says to print as directed. Now, one of the things that we can do, let me go back to AutoCAD real quick, is this. Let me get on this guy. If you want, you can copy and paste all 3 of these models into the same drawing. So what you do is once you get your model created in 3D, let me go back to model space if I can. All right. If you select a model and you right click on it, hang on here. Do this, right click. You select it and you go to right click. and you go to clipboard and you select copy with base point. Pick on that. And then what you want to do is pick the front corner, like right there for your base point. Then I'm just going to go to a different drawing and open it up and go into the background here. If you right click and you go to clipboard and you go to paste, you can see that I was able to paste that guy in there. Once it's pasted in, I can move it. So what I could do is copy all three of these models into one drawing, and then so my 3D view is going to have my 3D object plus it's going to have the other. So that's what I'm showing you right here. I think the video is going to show you how to do this. I think that Ashley made the videos on this, and I believe that in one of the last videos she made a video of putting all of these together into the same project. So you can do it that way if you want, so that when you print it, all three projects are there, because when I grade this, I grade these three as one project. All right. And so you can put them all together if you want, or you can send them as three separate ones. I'm still going to grade it for, you'll just get one grade for all three. So if you make a mistake on one of these that's like a -5 mistake, then your grade on the entire project would be a 95. So, you've got a video for each one of these. Then I grade this guy separately, the flange bearing. And the reason I grade it separately is because on the flange bearing, you have to draw those shapes, trim them, make them into regions, and then revolve them, and then rotate them and subtract them in order to make this model.